and really, really well respected. So we're hugely thankful for Lesley to taking up her time for this. Certainly. So, hi Lesley, are you there?
Hello, Joshua. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning,
How are you?
Good morning, Joshua. I'm so hyper. I've been waiting in the waiting room, going, "When am I on?" It's really scary.
Just morning cup of coffee.
I haven't had coffee. I had like some warm water, but I think it's like a result of being like cooped up. Like, so no one, I'm seeing people, even though you're over Zoom. I'm really excited. Yeah. So
a bit stir crazy. It's good to see somebody.
I know. Thanks for putting this on. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it's been an incredible event so far. I think we checked the donations today, but at the moment, I think we're well over £7,000. I think.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, 6,500, but including gift aid, which I'm going to count. We're at 7,600. So we really are on our way to meeting that target.
Well done, you. By the way, so because we organise training events, right? I know how hard it is, by the way, to be so organised and do the marketing. I've got you and Alice, a massive thank you in the slides that I've got later, but I just think it's phenomenal, and you guys are so organised. And Alice as well. She's been great behind the scenes and, you know, posting everything out. I don't know how you've done it. It's just a great job. Blown you away.
Yeah, especially getting everybody. I think we might have had over 40 speakers for the event. So there's a kind of massive number of speakers, all of the content that's gone out to promote it. I think today we've got about just under 2,000 people in the Facebook group alone, and that's been in the space of about 10 days. So it's really been kind of fast pushed.
I know. Oh, wow. So I'm honoured, of course. And I have got some, you know, I want to share what we've been doing with everybody. I've got a bit of a hard-hitting headliner in terms of only the strongest survive. But I actually do mean that, because I think, you know, I'm sure you're aware, and everybody else who's been aware, a lot of rent-to-rent operators have been going sort of down under, or they're giving their units back, which is perfectly fine. But hopefully I'm gonna give some golden nuggets away to, you know, help those who are needing a bit of help, who are struggling at the moment, hopefully. And sorry, not hoping that they're struggling, but hopefully I can help them with their struggles. And also those that are considering rent to rent, you know, what they're getting themselves into, if they want to do this strategy in the future. So I've got a bit of a line.
Yeah, absolutely.
What have you been doing on the front lines in terms of business front lines?
I'll hand it over to you. Have you got slides to share?
Yeah, I have actually. So let me get my slides up.
Perfect.
And do I have to press the hold on. I have to press the
if you press share screen, then you should have to pick the PowerPoint or Keynote slides.
I'll see you on the other side, Barbie.
See ya.
Right, here we go. Just checking, hopefully everybody can see my slides. And good morning to everybody. Right, so I'm Lesley Tao, and I'm part of the Cashflow team. So we're a training company, but more importantly, we also, well, I have my own rent-to-rent portfolio, and I'm based in Cambridge. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm just going to give a very, very quick introduction, if I can get slides to work. So firstly, I wanted to give a massive shout out to the amazing Joshua and Alice for putting on such a phenomenal event at really quite short notice and getting so many people to, you know, donate. I can't believe what they've managed to achieve in such a short space of time. And obviously, this is all to support or help go towards the NHS that have been phenomenal in, you know, fighting the coronavirus in this country. So great, so grateful, and I hope that everybody's getting their donations in. So just to give you guys a little bit of background about me, okay, so my name's Lesley Tao. I'm a third generation Taiwanese Brit, and I have a fairly robust rent-to-rent portfolio based in Cambridge. I actually started my property journey when I was based in Dubai, and I had a rent-to-rent portfolio there as well. So when I came back to the UK in 2018, I started to grow it from scratch again. And people might know me more for service accommodation, but I actually do a whole range of rent-to-rent business models. So that includes service accommodation. It also includes HMOs and also single-lets. And I like to term it single-lets on steroids. And I'm going to tell you guys more about this later in the slides, because it's quite an exciting model, and it takes some of the grey areas out of service accommodation that we come across during, you know, operation. Okay, so let's just move on to the next slide. Right, so I just want to introduce you to my clan, because no matter what it is, whether it's in business or generally in life, it's really important to have a G unit. So this is my G unit. So this is my amazing little son, Matteo. And one of the great things about being in lockdown, by the way, everybody, is I've been able to spend more time with him. So even when we come out of this, I am actually going to make sure that instead of keeping weekends free for the family, I actually maybe only spend 1 or 2 days working, and the rest is kept for the family, because I'm really quite liking the changes and, you know, cooking for the family, doing all the little things. And it is the little things that matter, you know, doing a bit of cleaning, a bit of laundry, a bit of the normal stuff. So those are the changes I'm personally going to make, and I have been actually enjoying the lockdown more now. The first 2-3 weeks was really hectic, and I'll tell you guys what happened so you know where I'm coming from. So in the middle is my very supportive husband, Remy. Remy's Lebanese, and we met when I was in Dubai. And those are my 2 darling dogs, Salt and Pepper. So we're the G Unit clan. And it's so for me, my heart is all about family. So I have, like, obviously quite a big family, but my immediate family, you know, we're like a little G unit, and we're also very supportive. So my husband's very supportive of what I do, and he actually manages our property management business. I get involved with the strategy, the negotiation side of things. So it's really, you know, it's important to have a supportive team and family unit around you. Okay, so what we do, so I have a property management company called Koala and Tree, and we're based in Cambridge. So we've got about 50 rent-to-rent units, and because my family are also in property, they have retail units, so we manage that as well. So what that has done is given me a whole range, you know, broad range of experience, because I'm seeing how, for example, the coronavirus has impacted different rental models. So that includes your easy single lets, service accommodation, so short-term lets, in particular the Airbnb and Booking.com style letting, the HMOs, and also retail. So by retail units, we have tenants who have restaurants and shops. We also, Corals is one of our tenants as well, so they run a bettings business. So you know, it's been very interesting to see how that's also impacted the retail market, which is quite you know, quite heavy. So for those of you who are not into rent to rent, I just want to give you a really quick basic overview of what it is. Okay, so rent to rent is where you rent a property from a landlord and then you sublease it out to either a paying guest or a tenant. And it is a subleasing model, so you don't own the property, and it's a little bit different from lease options in terms of you control and manage the property, but you don't have any of the option to buy at the end of it. So you don't actually, so one of the disadvantages is that you don't have capital gains, in terms of you can't capitalize on the capital gains of the property, okay? Now, the most exciting thing that I find being a rent-to-rent operator and having done it in 2 different countries now is you can actually be creative and run different types of business models. So rental models, let's call that, rental models from it. So I've mentioned already service accommodation, HMO, singlets, but there are also more. So that's what I'm excited to introduce to you guys as well. Now, let me tell you, so before we even come on to coronavirus, let me tell you a bit about what happened to our business in December 2019. So just before Christmas, we had our worst performing month for our service accommodation in December 2019. Now, the HMOs were fine. HMOs are great in terms of they're quite steady. You can forecast and see what exactly is going to come in the next 6 months. And if you're not forecasting for your business, you should do, okay? But with service accommodation, you know, it fluctuates. So we all know that during the winter time, it's usually a bit quieter, but I've never lost money on my essays before. And we actually lost money in December 2019. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because we actually started this battle a little bit earlier. And what I mean by battle is that it actually just changed the way I was doing business. So instead of the, short-term rentals, which is, you're placing your properties on the short-term booking platforms such as Airbnb and Booking.com, I was actually looking at how I could stabilize our portfolio because it is a little bit bigger. And this is a model that we were working towards. So what it is, it's a single let, I call it the single let model on steroids, okay? And it's quite easy to understand. So what it is the rent to rent model, but so what we mean by rent to rent model is the subleasing model, but I'm renting the property out to long-term tenants on a single let basis. So that means one tenant, so I'm renting the property out 6 months, 12 months to one tenant, a family, a working professional, and it could also be a company, which is kind of classified as a corporate let as well. So usually if it's residential, you've got an AST contract. And we were basically swapping a lot of our service accommodation properties over to this model. And the great thing about this, and I've got that in the slide after this, is that there's loads of advantages. But you sort of, when you're in the buy-to-let sort of market, okay, your property, because it's done up really nicely as a service accommodation, so fully furnished, and probably ours are quite boutique looking or cozy looking, you're going to stand out above the rest of the single let market anyway, which is usually not very nice furniture, not very well decorated, or no furniture at all. And that means that you can charge a premium. Okay, so what we did was the premium we were getting. So what I mean by premium, so usually let's say a 1-bed apartment in Cambridge is £1,200. Okay, but I could rent mine out for £2,200, including all the bills, and I can make a nice margin in the middle. So the margins we were switching our properties over, and we were making net was between £500 to £1,500. Now, so this the switch of strategy. So we still had quite a fair amount of properties doing just the short-term rentals, but we're slowly switching the strategy over to single lets on steroids model. And that was great because it absolutely stabilized our portfolio. And just to give you guys some advantages, so there was obviously when you're on a AST contract or a long-term tenancy agreement, there are no planning issues. So you have a happy council, because we know that one of the biggest issues with service accommodation is planning. Council don't like it, and they try and put you in a, they try and say it's sui gen. But now we've moved over to single let model, you get rid of that issue. And there's also no mortgage restrictions if it's a buy to let, you're renting out to one family or one tenant, because you're compliant with the mortgage that the landlord's property is on. So these are some of the grey areas, by the way, with rent to service accommodation, so short-term lets that you usually get. So, and you also, now you're on the buy-to-let model or the single let model, there's no insurance issues, so you get a happy insurer, and there's no short-term lets and multiple tenants, so you also get a happy landlord. You don't have the heavy turnaround, so you get a happy neighbour, and it's not that expensive because you're not using, let's say, for example, we have Toki, our channel manager, and then we have lots of plugins and add-ons to that, and we have a really wonderful VA team. But all that package costs us at least £1,000 to run in terms of our systems for our short-term stays. But now we're switching over to this model. This gets rid of, well, it doesn't get rid, because we still got a part of the portfolio that is short-term lets, but it just gets rid of that cost, because you don't have to have, there's very minimal management, okay? You just have to have a workable CRM system, okay? So that has cut down the costs. As I said, very minimal management, and it's very easy to scale up because you don't have a lot to manage. Whereas on the other spectrum with rent to service accommodation, the short-term lets, the turnover, there's a lot of turnover, and this model has meant that, you know, minimal cleaning, there's no cleaning, probably end of term tenancy cleaning, you have no linen, and then because it's back on the single let model, there's also no VAT to sort of worry about. So it just strips everything back and makes it more basic, and you still can earn a very healthy margin. So we were doing this and it was going really well. We had some properties that were still on short-term lets that, you know, we were getting more income from, but it was more management intensive and heavy. And then this happened. So obviously the coronavirus has had a massive impact on our industry and the world and everyone's health. But I was actually watching this when Wuhan in China got hit. And so I guess keeping up with what's going on in the world is really important, because in January, I was keeping up with the news there. And I kind of predicted that we were going to sort of, the West or the UK, Europe, we were also going to be impacted. So, so I was keeping my eye on the news, and I actually called an emergency training session with my mentees. I think it was February. And so I told them they better everybody start switching over to longer term lets now, whether it's contractors or single lets on the steroids. And the reason for that is because if this hits Europe, the US and the UK, we're going to be in for a recession. And I was a little bit more, not negative, but conservative, because I've asked everybody to sort of put plans in place for till the end of this year. So if you can get your property switched over and get longer term tenants in, do that, because we don't know how long it's going to last. Okay. And so we've been taking on much longer term tenants, 6 months, 12 months. And my students, because we started a bit earlier because of what happened to us as a business in December, my students are doing really well. Like quite a lot of them have 100% occupancy rate because they've got longer term tenants in from the beginning of the year. So and one person in particular hasn't had to do anything because he's had I think long-term tenants in, so this is Mark Evans, since February, and they're staying until like late this year, so which is good. Now, so what happened on 16th of March? This happened. So we actually lost £50,000 worth of bookings in 1 week, and it was brutal. Although we had a head start and we were working towards stabilizing our portfolio, especially the service accommodation side, but we weren't expecting to have such little time to work in. So so what happened next? So we couldn't just rely on you know, the single let and steroids model, and this is what we did. So when this hit, I kind of like went into a different mindset. So adrenaline kicked in and I went into an iron mindset, because what I was thinking was, you know, this shouldn't take us down. Yeah, with life experiences, I've experienced worse. I was in Dubai when we had the last crash, which is back in 2008, 2009. And although it's not as bad as this because it's it's a health pandemic. But, you know, there were people fleeing the country and, you know, leaving their cars, you know, in the airports, you know, expats are fleeing, and you know, Dubai during the last recession was empty. I remember driving down one of the big roads, Sheikh Zayed Road, and there was just no one around. And that was really weird, because I felt like I was kind of, apart from seeing my colleagues at work. So by the way, guys, I used to work as a lawyer for a magic circle firm. So apart from seeing my colleagues at work and everybody is very fearful of losing their jobs, it was a ghost town. So you know, so this pandemic hasn't really fazed me that much, because I experienced a lot during the last one in terms of you know, losing my job at some point, and also businesses and personal relationships all going downhill. And now looking back, I'm so glad that those not so nice experiences happen, because I would not be the person that I am today and able to sort of tackle an issue like this and, you know, save our business had I not experienced it. So there's always a silver lining. There was always, you know, a pot of golden nuggets at the end of, you know, a battle. And I just want you guys to know that, right? So this is what we did. So we had 3 weeks of intense business battling, and this is why I call it the survival of the fittest. So I actually stepped back into the business and was, you know, negotiating all the reduction of overheads. So that includes rental reductions from our landlords. Deferments won't do at this point. Yeah, I know that some operators are not paying some of their landlords any rent, but for us, because we are getting income in, it's just, you know, reaching a balance or with the landlord, because we're working together on a long-term relationship. So rental reductions of 35 to 50%, which has meant basically our overheads per unit has gone down as well. And not only that, guys, I've been negotiating with suppliers as well. So your utility suppliers, and even the council and council tax, because we don't get, you know, under the, you know, the government support, all the support that they brought in to help businesses. Council tax, which is what we pay, we don't pay business rates for our units, is something that, you know, they haven't given any exemptions for. Now, the best that I've been able to negotiate, and I just got the news yesterday, is that they are willing to do a deferment for us until June. So we'll have a look at the situation again in June. So my biggest tip for you guys is to negotiate. You've got to hustle, okay? You've got to hustle, because if you don't, your business might go down under. And you know, I think that during a time like this, I haven't had any issues really with any of our landlords or suppliers. Like even the council, like I sent them an email and they reply back straight away to give me a solution. So don't be afraid to reach out. Do not bury your head in the sand, okay? It's time to solve problems, time to get on the phone, time to get on your email. So apart from reducing our overheads, we also ramped up massively our marketing advertising. Now we have a great website, so you know we put out Google ads, and we were on loads of different platforms, which I will show you as well in the later slides. Now, apart from ramping up our advertising and our marketing, so at this point the main thing was to get the SA units that were, you know, on short-term lets out on a medium or long-term let to stabilize everything, and so that we didn't have to worry during this lockdown where we're not really allowed to go out and actually, you know, conduct viewings, etc. So speed was so important. So I think we were getting in at one point 20 leads a day, because from all the marketing and advertising for our properties, and we were working together as a team, and we had so much speed in terms of when we get a lead in, immediately someone would call, follow up email, and then call again. But we were working together as a team, and I can't emphasize on that. If you're a one-man band, don't worry about it. I mean, it just means that you need to get proactive. If you have a management company, I would say you still need to be proactive. I think a lot of operators who've probably suffered a lot or have dropped off, and for basically maybe two reasons. And one of the biggest one is they weren't treating their service accommodation units as a business. So what I mean by that is they were handing their units over to a management company. Now, there's nothing wrong with using a management company, but if the management company only advertises your property on short-term booking platforms, so the most common is Airbnb and Booking.com, then that's going to leave you very limited exposure for your properties to get rented out on different platforms. And also, what are you going to do now? Or what are they going to do now? Because Airbnb and Booking.com have shut down their platforms. So the best thing for you guys to do is to get proactive and you know, educate yourselves in, you know, what else can we do to get the properties rented? Because I think the biggest misconception people have, by the way, is that service accommodation is just Airbnb and Booking.com. You know, what does service accommodation actually mean? So for me, service accommodation means that obviously we've got a property that we've done up to quite nice standards. okay, and it's serviced in terms of it's fully furnished, and it comes with the bills included. The bills part, to be honest, it can be negotiable if you want your longer term tenants to pay for the bills, by the way, but that's what that means to me. And where that puts you at an advantage is that no matter which market you go to, whether it's a short-term market, the medium-term market, long-term market, your product is going to stand out, and that's most important. So I think where we've had the most success is where we've started putting our SA properties onto the single let market, but charging a bit more so that we can still make a bit of profit, especially now with reduced overheads. We have people that are absolutely biting, because normally you don't have such nice properties on the single let market. And I hope this also demonstrates to you the importance of being versatile and not thinking that service accommodation, you're just this one trick pony here that can only advertise on Airbnb and booking.com. No, you've got loads more platforms that you can put your properties on. But the most important thing is to treat it as a business, okay? So, so the team have been, increasing. We've had increased communication with the team. It's been really nice. I've actually taken a little bit more of a step back now, because we're kind of out of the red zone, so out of the crisis zone, and our essays, although it's not 100% occupancy, but we're at 86% occupancy on our service accommodation, which is a really, really good result. So what I've been doing in the background, guys, is also building a war chest. And I'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the slides, because at the moment, although we're faced with great challenges, it's also a massive time where you've got amazing opportunities that are here or coming. So that's why I'm building up the war chest. Now, I've talked about the multiple rental strategies. So I wanted to give you guys an idea of what is it that we are working with. So we're getting lots of direct bookings, and that's a result of having a good website, and we're also running some Google ads, right? We had some contractor bookings before. There's corporate agencies, although I don't think corporate agencies work at the moment. Contractors as well. It depends whether their work is considered essential work or not, but I have mentees and they've got contractors in because the projects they're working on are considered essential works and they are considered key workers. Now, the short-term OTAs. Now, before, so we were switching up our adverts. So it's really important, because everything's digital now, that you make your advert stand out. Now, this was before Airbnb and booking.com decided to close up our calendars, but we were targeting key workers. So, we had these awesome graphics on our photos to advertise that and make them stand out. So we were getting quite a lot of bookings in, and still, even though we were in lockdown. And I guess something to add to that is, if you have existing tenants, like the most silly thing to do is you're missing out if you don't talk to them, because we've had, so basically our VA team has been reaching out to all the short-term guests that have been staying with us. And a lot of them have extended their stay to, by a week, a month, and it keeps on rolling at the moment. And it's because of this lockdown situation. So, do check on your current guests and ask that question of whether they, need help with extending their stay. And, you might need to give them a slight reduction in the rate they were paying to make it more affordable for them, because now it's turning into more of a longer stay. Obviously, I've mentioned already the single let on steroids model that have served us very well, and I continue to be a massive fan of this model, actually. Okay, and now this is something I want to share with you. So the multiple platforms, so these are the platforms that we've been marketing and advertising on. So it includes Open Rent. Now, Open Rent is a very interesting and good platform at the moment, because you've also got this option which opens up your advert to Zoopla and Rightmove. And usually, to become a member of Zoopla or Rightmove, you've got to be set up as an agency and pay quite high membership fees every month. So we actually have a Rightmove account, but we also get loads of leads from Open Rent. Gumtree okay, is another one. Spare room, you can also advertise your entire property there. I've spoken about Rightmove and Zoopla already. Now, interesting enough, Facebook Marketplace, because we also have HMO rooms. So we experienced some tenants leaving because they needed to go back or they wanted to go back to their home countries, and or they lost their jobs, so they couldn't really afford to stay in the property. So we have had tenants leave, but because we've been so proactive again with filling up the rooms and also having the a really good relationship with existing tenants, we've been able to, you know, fill them up quite fast. So the HMOs, to be honest, have been really quite stable. Something that's new to me is Twitter. So I've never really used it before, and I didn't really understand why, let's say, Donald Trump was such a big fan of Twitter, and but this lockdown has got me tweeting, and because of tweeting more than anything else, so I've been getting in touch with our local hospitals, our local council, about providing, you know, emergency accommodation to their key workers or any vulnerable people, and people have been tweeting back. It was really random, but I even had a radio interview with what they called, I think it's the Voice of Muslim, sort of a Voice of Muslim charity, who saw me providing accommodation to hospital workers on Twitter. So I had a radio interview with them about it. So that was very random, but it was very cool because I never used Twitter before. And I also found that Facebook, so I really do like Facebook because Facebook is probably where a lot of you guys know me from. But with Facebook, I found that a lot, you know, reach out to your local community. So what I mean by that is I've been reaching out to my community, so lots of different groups in Cambridge, and reach out to see whether people need accommodation or need help. And we are still, by the way, guys, getting lots of inquiries and leads in at the moment through utilising all these different advertising and marketing strategies. Also LinkedIn, I use LinkedIn to reach out to various companies as well. But to be honest, I found Twitter to be more useful. And I've also had conversations with the council. And that's I know that Sue Sims, who's on after me, is probably going to talk about social housing in much more detail. But with the council, I got in touch with their emergency accommodation department. So I spoke to the manager of that, and that was actually because we were in the process of renewing an HMO license. So I asked the HMO officer for the contact for their emergency accommodation department, and he provided that straight away. So guys, just remember, you know, have a look in your contact list. Who else can you contact to connect you to maybe somebody in that organization, or they might know somebody that you want to get in touch with. So that's what the HMO officer did for us. So I had a chat with the emergency accommodation section, and that was a really interesting conversation because I didn't even think that there, you know, my brain at that point wasn't even geared that there, you know, there might be vulnerable people who were experiencing domestic abuse. But basically got told by, you know, the manager there that they will need accommodation, especially because all the hotels and guest houses and bed and breakfasts are closed down, which is where they would usually place victims of domestic violence. So this is just, guys, a bit of a sprinkling of what we've been doing. In terms of long-term thoughts after this, I do think I will be running my rent-to-rent portfolio slightly differently. I will be probably using the short-term OTAs a bit less because I do like the stability of you know, knowing exactly what is coming into our account, and you know, having that conversation with the council has actually changed my mindset, because if we can still run and profit as a business and also provide accommodation to, you know, the vulnerable, I'm going to be so happy to do that, you know, because that is also a bit of, you know, our way to, you know, give back whilst doing business. So that's something I'm going to, you know, probably have more of a long-term goal towards when I'm getting more units on in Cambridge. Now, as I said, great challenges bring great opportunities. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you some things that I've been working on, but we completed on a refinance during this time. So that means that we've got some funds in our war chest. I made an offer on a property that I had my eye on in Cambridge, and we got a 15% below market value, which is great because Cambridge prices are so buoyant because there's a lack of housing here. But I would imagine that there are more opportunities like this to come all around the UK. I also invested in a show horse, and we've just closed the deal as per yesterday on 2 billboards in Cambridge. So that's quite exciting, a new investment. And we've also just taken on another rent-to-rent deal in Cambridge. So what you guys will find is, if you are one of those amazing operators that are doing fairly well, you might see that lots of other operators who haven't been managing their business and their units, they might be terminating their contracts, the landlord, or trying to offload their units. So this might be a great opportunity for you to jump in if you're confident about using multi-rental strategies so that you don't lose money at this point, and also putting those negotiation skills into practice so that you get reduced rent and you've got very slim overheads on everything else. Okay, so what else have we been doing? So now is a great time. So the opportunities I see are either you can grow your rent-to-rent portfolio and or acquire some units in the months to come. So what we've done, because I have a sourcing business with my cousin Dean Yu called Cambridge Sourcing, is that we've just sent out 20,000 leaflets direct to landlord. This is it's going to take a bit of time because we went through Royal Mail. It's going to take a bit of time to get the leaflets actually delivered to their doorstep, but it just puts us in front of other agents as well, because a lot of agents aren't actually working at the moment, or they've closed shop. So we just want to get our leaflets out in front of them, because we're looking for opportunities to acquire properties slightly below market value, and to negotiate some lease options, because that's actually, the lease option strategy is actually something that I haven't had any haven't done any successfully, to be honest. So it's something that I really want to try out and see how it goes. But these are the opportunities that I've been capitalizing on at the moment. Now, for you guys, I'm sure there's going to be other things that pop up that is going to be very interesting and exciting. I don't want anybody to be fearful, because if we, or stressed out, because if we manage to, recover from losing 50 grand in bookings in a week, and I'm sure that you guys can also power through this, especially with the amount of support and the amazing speakers that are on this conference starting from yesterday, today and tomorrow. So you've got a wealth of support in this community. So I don't want you guys to be afraid, but I'm here, and I'm sure the other speakers are available if you want some additional help. Okay. Right, so I've got an offering for you guys. I'm probably finishing a little bit earlier, hey, but this is the offering. We could do some Q&A if you've got questions for me. So this is the offering. So this is it. So next week, so my business partner, Trevor Cutmore. So Trevor is a silver fox in with lease options and the buy, refurb and refinance model. Okay, I think he's done over 100 lease options during his investment lifetime, and he's still going. And he's running a free webinar, which we only just threw together yesterday evening. So that is going to be on the 30th of April, which is next Thursday. And we'd be more than happy for you to come on board, but I've got some extra bonuses to throw at you. So at the beginning of the month, I ran a SOS strategy session, because I saw a lot of operators struggling. Now that's actually been recorded, and I actually found the recording, so you can get that for free as well. And along with Trevor's lease option webinar next week, we'll also give you a free lease option heads of terms, and Trevor and well, actually it's more Trevor because he's the lease option guru, will teach you how to use them on the webinar. Okay, so a lot of cool bonuses there. And the way to sort of be part or register for the lease option webinar next week is just to email me. So that's my email address. Please make sure you take that down, just to email me with your interest. And also I do need, though, guys, like what's it called, Josh, the NHS donation receipt or reference number?
Yes, if you get a screenshot, I think a screenshot's the best way. Or forward the Virgin given email, because everyone gets an email confirmation come through.
Okay.
Forward that or a screenshot, and that'll do.
Brilliant. So if I can get that over, that means that we can get you registered, and you'll be, learning about these options next week. And if you, want to be part of the Cashflow community, we've got a Facebook group, Cashflow Freedom with Lesley Town, Trevor Cutmore, and we post regularly every day. And that's our website there if you want to find out a little bit more about us. So I guess that's it. Oh, I've got this for you as well, Josh. Shall I flick? I flicked to that really quickly. So I'm going to give 5 copies. So this is Trevor's prototype that I have at home. I've got 5 copies for you, Josh. And
it's not even released yet. This is kind of stage 1 prototype.
Now this is the prototype.
The press.
But I think Trevor's going to be releasing that book shortly. But you get 5 of these for free. But this is a book. It's a property viewing guide book, okay? And this is all based off Trevor's personal experience. And these are all his personal photos that have been collected since he was investing since 2004, and all the properties that, things. So basically things to look out for, so that you are, can go ahead with a deal. You can spot a little gold mine, or walk away from a deal if it's really rubbish and you spot loads of Japanese knotweed. So I've got 5 of those for you, by the way, if you want to put them towards the raffle. Yeah,
what we'll do is
anyone
who donates, so we'll do 2 separate ones. So for your one, for your program, are they emailing you for your program one, the previous slide?
Yeah,
so everyone take a picture of this screen, get that email address in, to get on the webinar, plus the heads of terms, plus the webinar recording, Lesley@cashflowfreedom.com, and also join the Facebook group. There's a lot of value in there. And then to get a copy of Trevor's new book, if you email me a copy of your donation, we'll send that over to. I'll send it in and put Cashflow Freedom as the subject, joshua@jsmpartners.co.uk, and I will ask Lesley to mail you one of those out.
Lovely. Do I have any questions?
Perfect. You do indeed. Loads of questions.
Josh, was that okay, by the way?
That was really good.
Just like you would tell me if it was crap anyway, like Lesley, that was crap.
That was rubbish. I'm joking.
Oh, crap. Better at it. Damn.
So someone asked, how much does it typically cost to start in service accommodation?
Usually, I would say it'd be good to have 5k in the bank, to start with, because you do need some money. It's not a no money down strategy, it's a low money down strategy. But saying that, now there's opportunity, because we've just taken, I've just closed a deal yesterday with an operator that I know for a rent-to-rent in Cambridge, and they're only charging us £1,000 for the furniture. It's fully decked out. It's a good property, good location, so you can actually pick up stuff for much cheaper now, and fully furnished as well.
So would you say now is a great time to look at getting into service accommodation, rent to rent?
Yes, absolutely. I think we're still getting cash flow. Our business, we're still doing. To be honest, being really honest, I think we're probably doing, put it like this, we're not doing better because we're not getting massive bookings in, but because our costs are leaner as well. So it's basically reduced our break-even point by quite a lot. So there's still a very nice profit margin to be made in our properties. Not all of them. Some of them we're not making. Some of them we're breaking even, but there are some of them where we are still making money. So it's a cash flow game, guys. it's still a good time to be taking some on. But my only sort of caution to that is you've got to be able to know how to sort of market your properties out. That's very important, because the worst thing, like the last thing you want is to be sitting there with a new rent to rent investment property and it's left empty and you still have running costs.
Yeah, absolutely. It falls into the next question somebody asked. They said, would you recommend setting up and paying for your own management or management and marketing in-house instead of using a management company?
Absolutely. I did consider using a management company only once, but then I decided against it. I'm really glad, because I don't think any management company, well, there might be very few, but not a lot of management companies, sort of over 90% will know what to do in terms of what we've done. So I think you've got to see rent to rent when you're taking over or you're wanting to get into this industry as a business. I think that is the point that people are missing. It is not really a hands-off business, by the way, until you start systemizing everything and putting teams in place, especially to start off with. It might be very hands-on, but that's really the best way to learn. As with any business, you wouldn't just buy something and then, hire somebody to take over the management of it. You really want to get to know your business really well, so that you can run it, and run it well and make a profit.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. If service accommodation isn't a business, you need to have it like that, have a marketing department, and have all those different aspects to it. Another question. So where do you buy your boutique furniture? Where can I learn how to do interior design and dress properties?
Oh, that's a very good point. So sorry, I'm just thinking about it, because we do provide training and there is an element of that. Well, actually, I'll introduce you to my brother and my sister-in-law's company. So, because they do all of our boutique design, so they're called towelliving.com, and they also design our website. So they source all of our bits and bobs. And what we do, guys, is that we don't buy from the same place. We don't do the furniture packs. There are some SA furniture packs out there, and we don't do that. And the reason for that is because we want to create our own sort of unique sort of stamp, which we have done in Cambridge by just providing something a little bit different. It's all about branding. Yeah, so you can get in touch with Towel Living and have a look at the stuff they create, because it's they've done all our essays in Cambridge, and they've also they've done up a guest house, and it all looks really good.
Yeah, perfect. So how many people would you hire for your own in-house management team?
It depends how big your portfolio is. So with a portfolio like ours, we've now got 3 VAs, and we've got 2 people on the ground now. Obviously, we've got our design team, but they're kind of like more shareholders. So I guess when you're starting out, it should be only you. And until you grow, don't spend too much. You need to keep your costs lean. But, I think when you have a couple of units, so to be honest, guys, we didn't even start getting a channel manager until we had about 6 units. And that was, just to ensure that we're making a profit. This is a strategy that is working for us, and we know how to run it as a business. So I would suggest you start off with 1 and see how that goes. But don't think about having massive, employing loads of people and getting loads of suppliers on yet. I think if you needed some admin help, get a VA. The VA support for us has been very valuable as well.
Yeah, so for people that are just looking to get a VA, kind of what's the best way you've found to kind of get one in place and pass stuff over? Have you had any issues with kind of passwords and things like that?
No, we've had no issues with that. We've got 2 types of VAs, by the way, guys. So we've got one which is called Moneypenny. So they are a telephone answering service that is available 24/7. So, and we've also got our VA teams. But what we've done at the moment is that we've actually just cut their hours to part-time. So they've got a job still, but it's not full-time as before. So we've got 3 of them, and they sort of cover shifts. Now they deal with all the guest relations, because that is, you've got to have some experience with that though, okay? But that is something that personally I don't want to touch, because it's, I'm better at strategy and stuff like that. But sorry, Josh, what was the question again? How do you recruit the VAs?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So with the VAs, they actually came through a recruitment company. But to be honest, I think that, they just need to have good customer service skills, because they've just been referring. So when we've lost a VA, they've just been referring their friends and training them up. But you have to provide the training, and we had a consultant that did us in a series of videos. So, so the training's all there for them. But so that's the way to systemize and cut down your time. But you, as with any business, you've got to have a good grip over things.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got another question come in. When you swap SA to buy-to-let on steroids, do you leave Wi-Fi and Netflix on in addition to the bills?
It depends on you. Yeah, it depends, because so in some of our properties we do have that, okay, where they pay a bit more of a premium. For other properties, we don't have that. So it really depends what your tenant wants to do, because if they're willing to pay the higher price, okay, that's great, you can have that included. But if they don't want to pay so much, and maybe it's just a number sticking point in their head, something that is a negotiation skills is lower the price of the rent, but take out all the bills so that they pay for the bills, they're accountable for it instead of you.
Yeah, perfect. Hopefully that answers that question spot on. What else have we got? How are you currently finding deals at the moment during lockdown?
So how am I currently what?
Finding deals whilst being stuck inside.
Social media, like I have do they mean the all the investment deals I've been doing?
So I think it's rent to rent deals.
Okay, so basically when you have a social media presence, and I know that there was some great speakers yesterday that were talking about how to build your brand right yesterday and social media. So when you have a bit more social media presence, the deals come to you. So I don't actively go out looking for rent to rent deals.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so because of your presence and because you put that work in, you give enough out, then you get it in. So if you're putting all this content out, people know who you are, know that you look after properties. Now people come to you and give you their properties because they know you're going to look after them.
Yes, but if you don't have a social media presence, I would suggest that you do this. So there's lots of communities around. My students, for example, they're also looking for properties to take on some more. And what they've been doing is that they've basically been jumping on different communities and asking. So for example, the Service Accommodation Network UK community, that's got quite a lot of operators in there, asking, hey guys, have you guys got any properties in this area, because we're interested to take some more on if you have available. So yeah, I think like one of so I'm just thinking, one of my mentees, actually they're looking at taking on 6 more in Manchester. So I have to have a look through their numbers for them. But they're, if you're running your so I think the trick is here, not the trick, but the golden nugget is SA doesn't have to be a one-trick pony. You can use multiple different rental strategies and still do business. And that's why, like, my students, and I guess myself, we're still taking on some units, because now it's probably easier because you have less competition in the market as well. But you've got to know how to manage your business. That's so important.
Yeah, so it is another business. You need to know business 101 before you can really start with the rest of it.
Yeah,
so another question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I guess the same business principles apply to you as well, Joshua, right? Although in different professions slightly, but
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't kind of start an accountancy business and then get somebody else to come in and especially you would essentially, but they'd be qualified, trained staff. You wouldn't just do that from day one and outsource everything to somebody else. You need to be in there day in, day out, handling all different areas of the business. And that's the approach that makes the difference. Having that mindset is the difference between a successful West End operator and a not so successful one.
I think so, and I think like since this has happened, this is where you've really seen a shift in where people are doing well and why others are not. The operators that I've seen that are doing like really well, for example, David Diak, who's now become a really good friend of mine. He's just so proactive, like at getting people in. He inspires me to if I feel like I can't really describe it. I feel like when we got locked down, that was literally, we're on the battlefield, and I was a little general in the battlefield with my team, and like trying to okay, Lesley, call them. But it was speed as well, guys. So it's not just sitting back going, hey, I'll call them tomorrow, because somebody else might get their business. So it literally is the business mindset, survival of the fittest, pick up the phone, try and close them down because they've got money to spend, so that you don't have an empty property.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of now or never. You got to take action, because without action, nothing is ever going to happen. So we've got another question come through. So how does this work on AST? So for the single atom steroids, do you have a AST in place, or is it a license?
So it's AST. So usually we would only issue an AST. So that's an assured short hold tenancy contract for residential property. If it's 6 months and over, and we've been taking on tenancy contracts at the moment for 6 months and 12 months. So long-term contracts. So that's where we would grant an AST contract. It's the right thing to do. Otherwise, if you had them in your property without that in place and they were in there for that long, it's not the right thing to do. They need to have the tenants that they're classified as tenants then, and you're still the operator, but you need to have that contract in place. And I guess the how we are able to do that, so maybe this is the answer they're trying to get, is because of the rent-to-rent contract we have with the landlord, which gives us the authority to grant ASTs on their behalf.
Okay, yeah. So again, that comes down to having the right contracts in place.
Yeah, that's really important.
I'd imagine a lot of operators probably don't have that in their contract, because they've kind of got a template and it's not been properly written. So having that in there is really valuable. So another question come through. So when speaking to landlords,
yes,
as a new investor, how do you overcome the objection of kind of being new to this, and a landlord not essentially trusting you around that?
Do you know what? I'm quite old school and traditional, and I've built all my relationships on just being me. Whether I have, this applies to you too, because everybody is very unique in their different ways. So even though you might not have the experience with running a rent-to-rent or a management company type of business, but what experience do you have? Do you have experience with managing your own property? Do you own your own house? Are you a landlord? All these things adds credibility, but you have to try and draw it from where you're at, and everyone's a bit different. So it could be something really small. It could be like, you maintain your house or your room even, and you're passionate about learning more, or, getting your hands dirty and just, looking after the properties. You got to build a relationship with the landlords and convey your passion. And I'm sure there's going to be a landlord out there who would back you, because everybody starts from somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So just don't be somebody else. Just kind of work with what you've got. So if you do run your own business, just switch it. So, I run my own business, so I can run your property, essentially, and work it like that.
Yeah, don't tell porcupines, by the way. So there are people that, because they want the property so bad, that you might tell porcupine, as in, I've had loads of experience, and then when they ask you a question about, I don't know, the boiler or something maintenance or warranty related, if you don't have a clue, you're just going to look really silly. So just be really honest. If you don't have the experience, just tell them you don't, but I'm looking to get my property company compliant, or I am compliant already, and these are the steps I've taken to further educate myself.
Yeah, perfect. Definitely agree with that. So we're almost closing the draw to this session. I've enjoyed it. The feedback on this has been incredible. Lots of value, well over 250 people throughout that. What we'll do is just quickly recap on the offers to make sure that anybody who's just joined doesn't miss out on this valuable offer. So can you go back? It's this slide. Yeah, it's this slide.
Yes.
So if you donate, is there any minimum donation for this one, or is it just give what you can?
Just give what you can. What do you think, Joshua?
Yeah.
Everything helps.
Yeah.
Everything helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Just
have a big heart. And I know loads of people have donated already, but also I think it's fair, if they donated already, they can come on as well, right? I think that's fair.
Yeah. If you're happy to.
Yeah, of course. The more the merrier. Let's spread, the good word of, how to optimize on your, how to optimize on these opportunities. Because, if we've sent out 20,000 leaflets, I don't know how that's going to go. So I'm just waiting, waiting to hear back from those now. And I'll update our community group when that happens, because that's quite exciting. I've never done that before, by the way, but different ways of marketing now.
Yeah, fingers crossed it works out. Everyone's at home, so they'll be reading those leaflets. It's a
So
great time to do it.
away this time.
Yeah, they've got nothing else to do, so they'll be reading their post. So everybody, get a picture of this. It's Lesley at cashflow-freedom.com. So even if you've already donated, extremely generous this offer, so forward that on and get yourself on that webinar, get those bonuses, because there's so much value there. It's really going to help drive your business forward. And we've also got the copies of Trevor's new book. That's literally kind of prototype Mark 1, hot off the press, that we'll be able to give out. So if you email those to me, and I'll forward those on, pick 5 people, because that's all we've got for that one. Joshua at jsmpartners.co.uk, forward that on with Cashflow Freedom in the subject, and we will get those sorted for you.
With live pictures. I never knew what a Japanese knotweed looked like until I saw a picture in this book.
Does it just look like any other kind of weed?
I know. I'm like, I don't know whether I can spot them by myself, though. I personally think that before I buy anything, I'll just take Trevor with me.
Yeah, that's definitely got value into that. All right, so what we'll do now is, thank you very much for your time, Lesley. It's been incredible. I've certainly enjoyed it. Everyone else has. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Brilliant. Don't forget to donate, everybody, and see you all soon. Bye. Thank you, Joshua.
Bye.